What's up, everybody? Back with another Survivor video. Let's get to it. Of course, like the video if you're enjoying the content. Subscribe to the channel to get our other content, and let me know in the comment section what you're thinking this week. Taking a look at the slate of 9 games that we're looking at this week, a lot of familiar faces headed by the Dolphins, Niners, and the Ravens, but it got a lot of teams sneaking in there that you wouldn't normally see, like the Packers, who are playing great as of late, the Texans, who have been playing great all season, Pittsburgh, who's been on and off and very shaky, and then the Saints there as well. Not always in the discussion for Survivor, so something that's certainly interesting and maybe a lot more open options this week than normal. As always, taking a look at the schedule, getting pretty close to the end of the season, where these Week 18 matchups, if you're still in it and still in a league with a lot of people, may loom large. If not, if you're in a smaller league with only a handful of people left, the schedule still matters, but you just want to push up which weeks you're looking at. For example, I see a lot of teams this week, 3 to be specific, that I've identified as picks next week, with the Dolphins playing the Jets, the Saints got the Giants, and the Niners with the Cardinals. So it's definitely something you want to keep an eye on and think about for the next few weeks to come. Taking a look at which team we always want to perceive a caution with first, that would be the Cowboys at the Eagles. I want to preface, as I do in some videos, saying that just because it's perceived a caution does not mean this is a pick you shouldn't take, or this is a pick that I think will lose. It's just that there are certainly red flags in this game, and with every game that I talk about with perceived caution. For the Cowboys facing the Eagles, it's the fact that they are playing a divisional opponent that happen to be the Eagles, who have still the best record in football even after their loss against the 49ers. Now, the Cowboys have looked great lately, and their offense is really going. The running back with Tony Pollard has been solid, but really it's the passing game with Dak Prescott, who has emerged as an MVP favorite, getting the ball all across the offense, but especially to CeeDee Lamb. That defense has been as dominant as ever, with Dan Campbell calling the plays over there in Dallas on defense, and Micah Parsons leading the charge there. What concerns me is that Dallas has not really beaten playoff caliber football teams. They have not competed in games where they really are required and faced a really stringent opponent. Their first game and their first win against a team with an above 500 record was that game on Thursday night against the Seahawks, and they barely won that game. They let the Seahawks, who had looked pretty terrible, especially offensively the last few weeks, hang around that game, and it was only because of a few picks on the Cowboys defense that they were able to come out of that game with a win. So certainly something to be cautious about. I've been saying it for the last few weeks for the Eagles side that they definitely have been due for a loss, and you saw them get beat down by the 49ers. I'm not reading too much into that. I still think the Eagles are one of, if not the best teams in the NFL. And, you know, they were due for a loss. They should have lost the game against Buffalo. Every team needs humbling. Every team needs a loss to remind themselves what they need to improve on, and that's just what happened to the Eagles there against a hungrier 49ers team that still had that NFC Championship loss in their brains. So for the Cowboys here, I would strongly recommend not taking it because you're playing the Eagles, because they are struggling against opponents with records over 500 and struggling against opponents that look to be playoff bound. That being said, if you're looking at just eyeball tests in the last few weeks, the Cowboys certainly seem like the better football team. It just does not seem like the best spot to take them for Survivor purposes. Another team to think twice about here is the Lions in Chicago playing the Bears. It's probably going to be nasty weather in Chicago like it always is in December. That certainly is a factor in this game. The line says -3.5 here. It has since moved down to -3, meaning that the public has been betting the Bears so much so that it's forcing the line to move away of the Lions' favor. The reason I think this game is something to be cautious about, obviously, is the fact that the last time these two teams played, the Bears really gave the Lions a run for their money, picked off Jared Goff 3 different times, added a 4th turnover to that, and had this game in their grasp until they let it slip away in the final seconds of the 4th quarter. Bears coming off a bye this week, there is no doubt in my mind that that is still a very fresh wound for them and something they're going to try to atone for and win this game, as they do not want to drop to their divisional rival Lions and a team that they know they can beat. They had them on the ropes all of the game. The last time they played, I am scared. I would be scared if I was picking the Lions that the Bears are hungry to finish the job and play all 4 quarters this time. You got Justin Fields, who's been looking solid. If he can, do his thing without turning the ball over, especially with fumbles that have been plaguing him lately, then it seems like the Bears have a pretty good shot to win this game. If you've been watching them at all the last few weeks, their defense has really been stepping up and committing a ton of turnovers, allowing this team to win the turnover battle. It's the offense that has really been letting the Bears down. If they can dial up some solid plays out of a bye week, then I think it's going to be trouble for the Lions, who have shown that they have trouble holding the lead as well. Just last week against the Saints, they got up to a quick 21-point lead, allowed the Saints to come back and really threaten that game until the Lions once again came away in the fourth quarter. Doesn't always work that way against divisional opponents, especially when you're on the road in crappy weather. Expect this game to be close. Another divisional opponent game here, the Saints and Panthers. This one, as implied by the spread, I'm not as concerned about as the other 2 games, but it is something to be concerned about given how the Saints have played, and especially given that they're playing a divisional opponent. What scares me more than anything is seeing the amount of hits that Derek Carr has taken at quarterback and the beating that he has gotten. I can't tell you right now for certain whether he's playing or not, but either he'll be playing hurt, not injured, but hurt, or you'll have Jameis Winston at quarterback, who is as turnover prone as they come. This is something that scares me as someone that would potentially take the Saints here as a pretty good value pick if it wasn't against a divisional opponent with some quarterback issues for the Saints. Ultimately, it shouldn't matter too much as their defense is much better than one of the opposing Panthers offense, but also it stacks up very well against that Panthers defense that has been very poor this year in both the run and the pass game. I expect this game to be pretty similar to the Bucs-Panthers game, where you know that the Buccaneers were the better team, but it was very similar spread as this game as well. But the Panthers still hung around and made that game maybe closer than you would like this late in the Survivor season. One thing goes the wrong way in terms of a turnover, ill-advised interception, that could see the Panthers winning this game. So it really comes down to the quarterback play for the Saints that will determine this win. But with the strength of their defense and their run game against a weak Panthers defense, you have to like them at home here, as the Saints are still fighting for a playoff spot, just 1 game behind the Falcons there. Last one is the Steelers and Patriots. And you might be a little surprised by this, given that the Patriots just put up 0 points against the Chargers, who I've been vocally shown my disdain for this entire season. But this is a game which the over-under, Thursday night, so a short week, throw out the record books and the game plans. It's just pure heart on the field. This game, although the Steelers are favored by 6 points, the over-under is only 30. So it's going to be very few points to come by. It's going to be an extremely tough game to get points where they're going to be an extreme premium. I don't really know how either of these teams are going to score points. The Steelers, they're going up against the Patriots defense that is allowing the lowest amount of points scored in the last 4 weeks out of any team. Out of the 49ers, who have a great defense, the Ravens, the Browns, all these teams with elite defenses, the Patriots are letting up fewer points than those teams. The Steelers have showed they've had their problems on offense. They showed it again last week, although the weather was biblical in Pittsburgh. They really struggled against a Cardinals defense that let guys like Royce Freeman tear them up in the Rams the week before. I expected the Steelers to really hammer the ground game against the Cardinals defense that struggled, and they weren't able to do so, and that concerns me. Patriots, on the other hand, have no quarterback play whatsoever. Ramondre Stevenson, their number 1 running back, is out. Luckily, they have Ezekiel Elliott to fill in. But even so, this offense, which is already anemic, takes another blow. It's hard to see either of these teams putting up points, but do you really want to be sweating out this entire game for the Steelers to maybe win 6-3? It just seems like a very tight game given the over-under total and given how these two teams have been playing, quite honestly. Let's move on from all that negativity and caution. Let's go to the best pick of the week. So often this season, it seems like it's been the Dolphins. They're at home. They're looking great with Tyreek Hill threatening to get the receiving record this year. It's not much to say about this game. There's no secret that the Dolphins can put up points as quick and as much as just about any team in this league. And you can say basically the exact opposite for the Titans. They really run through Derrick Henry, who's hurt, if not injured, and out this game. Will Levis, at quarterback, has not been maybe what people hope for. Certainly not after his first game where he threw for 4 touchdowns. He's looked much worse since. This offense has really stumbled the last few weeks. The Dolphins defense has been pretty solid lately anyways, and you can't say the same thing about the Titans. This just seems like a steamroll from the Dolphins at home against the Titans that it's not much to be impressed in Tennessee. Best value here, maybe a team you already picked this season, but if not, this is certainly the time to do so, and that's the Ravens at home coming off a bye against the Rams. Not much to say here. If you've watched both these teams this season, I think the Ravens stack up really well against the Rams, as the Rams don't have a great secondary. That's really going to help out Lamar Jackson, who isn't known for his passing game, certainly more for his legs. But this Ravens offense in the running game is very potent with or without Lamar Jackson's legs. And they get a bye week to get Isaiah Likely, who's been on this team and been in this situation, tight end one. Really get more acclimated to his role in the offense now that Mark Andrews, the all-pro tight end, is out for the Ravens. On the flip side, I think the Rams really struggle on the offensive line situation. Since Kyron Williams has come back, he's looked pretty solid, but this offensive line for the Rams is certainly, there's a lot more to be desired there. And then Puka Nacua has been an amazing receiver for the Rams on offense as a rookie, but Cooper Kupp, I cannot say the same. Certainly for where the expectations and the bar was set for him, he has not been meeting those. Part of that has to be because these injuries that he's been sustaining these last 2 years are lingering and certainly impacting his performance. Again, a fresh Ravens team with an elite defense playing at a historic rate, coming off a bye with Lamar Jackson and fighting for the #1 seed in the playoffs. I think it's a great spot for the Ravens. You look at their schedule too. I don't like them at Jacksonville if Trevor Lawrence is playing. If not, then that's a great spot for the Ravens. Obviously, against a backup quarterback. You're not taking them against the 49ers. You're not taking them against the Dolphins. You would probably take them at home versus Pittsburgh, but who's counting on Week 18 anyways? I think a lot of great value here for the Ravens. Again, off a bye week, which is pivotal in this situation. So just to reiterate, a lot of value for the the Ravens against the Rams at home, Rams on the road, traveling across the country. I think a great matchup for the Ravens. Some great value, though, I think you can find if you've already taken the Ravens. I think you got a lot of great value with the Packers and the Texans. The two knocks to both these teams this week is that they're on the road. It's funny, they're both playing in the same stadium. I believe that the Packers game is the Monday night game. They're both playing at MetLife in the Meadowlands there. And if there wasn't for them playing on the road, I think it'd be great spots for both of them and shoe-ins for the week. That they're playing on the road makes things a little bit more dicey. The Packers have looked really good. Jordan Love specifically have looked really good these last few weeks. They are facing a Giants team that's coming off a bye, which concerns me a little bit. For the Texans, they're playing the Jets, who have looked abysmal, especially on offense, really since the start of the season, but even more so as of late. Something to note is that the Jets starting quarterback is returning the role to Zach Wilson. That could play a pivotal role here. The Texans also going to be without Tank Dell, their standout rookie wide receiver. That may make a difference, but C.J. Stroud has been looking great all season long. It's worth noting they're going up against the Jets defense that is an elite secondary led by Sauce Gardner there. So given the fact that the Texans are going up against a really elite secondary and down one of their best receivers, I think I like the Packers for slightly more value here than the Texans, all else being equal. You look at their schedules too. You can if Tennessee wasn't a divisional opponent for Houston, I think you could put it there just based on their matchup alone. But again, this AFC South, I cannot stand picking divisional matchups there because it is so here and there and wishy-washy with this division. You're not going to pick against Cleveland with that great defense, but you would take them at home against Tennessee, certainly. So maybe one more spot for Houston here. The Packers, even at home against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is still fighting for a playoff spot. I don't think that's nearly as good as an opportunity as playing the Giants. You could probably take them on the road even at Carolina, and then a couple division opponents for the Packers here. So some good value here. I don't think that the Packers will be favored by more than 6.5 at Carolina, maybe the same amount. And then the Texans probably slightly less favored at home against Tennessee just because it is a divisional opponent. So some good value there, again, for the Packers and Titans. If you've used and exhausted teams like the Dolphins, the Niners, and the Ravens, the last team to talk about would be the 49ers there. Divisional opponent against the Seahawks. Again, the Seahawks had looked pretty sluggish on offense until they faced that Cowboys defense and put up a lot of points. It seems like the Niners are hell-bent on winning right now and proving that they are the top team in the NFC. And they're still fighting for the number one seed in the NFC in home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So they are playing for something every single game, even if you think they're running away from this division. I will say that the Seahawks there put up a pretty good fight against the Cowboys on the road. They're coming off a long week now. I would expect the Seahawks to maybe make this game a little bit closer than you would otherwise think on paper, just because this is a last-ditch effort for them to make the playoffs. They lose this game, they drop below 500, and they're guaranteed with all but certainty that they will not be making the playoffs. So just because divisional games, Seahawks are really hungry right now. The Niners aren't the best pick, the best value, or great value. That being said, if you've avoided picking the Niners thus far this season, and it's between them and taking the Saints, then I'd probably take the Niners, quite honestly, just given the increased percentage they had to win relative to these other proceed with caution teams. So no decision can be made in a vacuum, and evaluate which teams you actually have to pick. And just because I don't tell you that one of these teams is the best pick doesn't mean it's not the best pick for you. But just to recap, hard to deny that the Dolphins are the best pick this week with such a large spread going up against the Titans at home, while the Titans have such a poor offense. Niners, it's a good pick. It's not one of the best value plays, but especially given that they're playing a divisional opponent, but certainly a good opportunity there. The best value is the Rams, who have a really tough schedule coming up. It would have been a lot tougher if Trevor Lawrence didn't go down. We'll see if he's able to play that game. But coming off a bye, I think it's a great spot for the Ravens. The Packers and Texans, both in very similar situations, almost identical, quite honestly, playing in New York this week, favored by 6.5 points. I doubt you see either of those teams favored by that much the rest of the season, so some good value there. And while some of these teams in the bottom, like the Steelers and Saints, are favored by close to a touchdown, there is still reason to be wary for those teams. So just take extra caution and extra decision time when you're choosing who to take in Survivor with this week, especially if you're considering those bottom 4 teams. But if you're watching this, it means you made it to week 14. You're probably doing better than 99% of the nation. Best of luck, and hope to see you guys again next week.